Hari Om. Good evening, everyone. Today is an extremely auspicious day. It is, of course, the 1st of July, and today is Ashadhi Ekadashi, which is the beginning of what is known as Pandharpur Yatra in the state of Maharashtra. With thousands of Varkari devotees walk along the path from Alandi to Pandharpur, taking the name of God, Vitthala, Panduranga, and they reach over there. And this is supposed to be the day when Vishnu is going to take his sleep on a Shayana. So it is known also as Shayana Ekadashi. So we are continuing our beautiful Kindle Life talks. Again, let us start this auspicious day with prayers.
समस्त जन कल्याणी निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम् ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहैः ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। This world is a gift to us. What is there in this world is entirely for us. But how we use that and from which attitude we look towards the world is completely based on the inherent tendencies that we entertain. Taking further these thoughts, let us read Kindle Life.
Yesterday we had finished reading, rather completed reading, the chapter number 13, which was Fundamentals of Living. Let us do the word meanings once. Swarm, that is in large numbers. A legion is a division or a group. Preceptors are the teachers, generally the spiritual teachers. Contorted is twisted out of context. Abdicates means renounces. Enjoins is instructs. Eminence is fame or superiority. In this wonderful chapter, we had also learned, continuing with the thought process of the inner equipment of mind and intellect, that along with sharpening these tools, we also have been suggested by the scriptures to follow three main disciplines, which was called Brahmacharya. Brahmacharya means self-control, and it is a physical attribute. Ahimsa, which is mental or emotional, which means non-injury. And Satyam is for the intellectual faculty, which is truthfulness. The dignity of man lies in living up to his own convictions at all times. These convictions are as per the laws prescribed by the scriptures or religion. So this was in short chapter number 13. Let us continue forward by reading chapter number 14 now, which is Harmony and Poise. In the world today, we are living through an age of confusions and tensions, both within and without. The external challenges persecute us and tender our lives unhappy and sorrow-ridden. The intelligent philosophy of the rishis advises man to live in harmony with the situations in life and steadily work on to meet them with discretion and constant application. Thus, when we live thus for a period of time, a subjective poise develops, giving us inward peace and tranquility, which thereafter remains unaffected by external threats and onslaughts. In the outer world of bitter competition and immoral strife, each one of us is compelled to battle constantly with things and beings. Deep within ourselves also, we have become helpless slaves to our own uncontrollable desires and undisciplined thoughts. Thus, modern man comes to shreds and is torn asunder between the two forces, the objective tensions and the subjective confusions. The external threats and challenges, please excuse me, the external threats and challenges are bound to reach us time and time again, and none can escape them. Hence, the success and joy in one's life are measured by the extent of control one has over the inner subjective confusions. In our experience in life, we fall into the detestable and distressing environment and circumstances which provoke us and enrage us, and we despair for a solution. Such heart burning protests and indignation weaken our inner personality, and this weakness lends strength and might to the external challenges. In short, instead of braving the challenges, we render ourselves impotent and become ineffective and allow the external challenges to crush and consume us. After carefully analyzing our weaknesses, the masters in the religious fields advise us to grow in strength and gain mastery over situations in life by living in harmony with them. The life of harmony can be lived by rising above our limited egocentric view of things and happenings and expanding our mind to accommodate a constant awareness of the totality of the world, the entirety of mankind, and the vastness and the wholeness of the universal problems. When this total and consummate perception is developed and maintained, man's individual problems sink into insignificance and absurdity. But when man views his problems from a purely egocentric and individual angle, without this vision of totality, problems assume exaggerated and enormous proportions and crush him. Such a man is like a musician in the orchestra who chooses to play on his own, without falling in line with the general rhythm and melody of the entire chorus of the orchestra. Hence, to live a life of harmony is to recognize oneself at every moment to be a member of the entire humanity, living in a composite universe, and merge one's life with the resonant cadence of the whole and bring about a fascinating melody of harmonious existence. The principle of living in harmony with the external world is not to be construed as a life of ideal acceptance or unintelligent surrender to the challenges confronting us. The apparent harmony detected by the humble and important adapters to challenging situations is worse than the dullness of death, while the harmony envisaged by our religious masters is the dynamic silence which is the architect of all creations. This art of practicing harmony is to be applied in the din and roar of the marketplace while we are heaving and sweating with exertion upon the narrow path of uncertainties in life. Our life of harmony with the ampler scheme of the cosmos brings to our heart an inward peace and poise. When poise is maintained within us, Problems and challenges vanish like mist before the rising sun. Religion helps us to live the life of harmony and gain poise in personality. Let us follow her precepts, gain self mastery, and lead humanity to success and eternal glory and peace.
Beautiful.
This particular chapter, yes, is about how to live a harmonious life amidst the turbulence and disturbances of our age. When not more than today that we see so many disturbances surrounding us. What Gurudev is trying to tell us in this chapter is that when we look at a problem, if we look at it only as an individual with a narrow focus that only my problem is this and I am so depressed and dejected and nothing else in the world matters except for me solving this problem and there is nothing else in life except this problem, then it really becomes a big problem. Because you are at a continuously disharmonious state of mind within you. Mind and intellect do not function properly, and thus decisions and actions resulting because of the decisions may not be the right ones. If, on the other hand, for example, all of us have certain individual problems at home around us, but when, like today, our country is facing a very difficult situation, not only in terms of the COVID, but also in terms of our neighbors who are giving us a very difficult time. Immediately, the nobility within us, our minds, we think about the larger problem of our country and think and try to find solution and our own means of helping the nation and our fellow citizens. So immediately, our smaller petty problems just take a back seat. They are not all that important or all that difficult in comparison to the larger. And of course, the Creator Himself, in the grand scheme of the universe and things, has created such a beautiful world for us if only we live and follow according to the precepts prescribed by our religious texts and given to us by our great masters.
Totally.
Any thoughts on this?
You've covered all the points on this. It's beautiful. And these 3 points which Gurudev has made, these are universal. We all have been under brahmacharya sometime in a life or the other. For example, we may have been any kind of students in a school life, but when the time exams came, you suddenly became focused and you studied hard. You got self-control.
That's true.
Right? So many times in our lives, we have seen ourselves being ahimsa. We don't naturally like hinsa mentally. And of course, satyam. We always prefer everyone else to tell us truth. No? Even we try to be as much truthful as possible. Therefore, these are universal laws.
Correct.
Shall we take the word meanings?
Yes. Let us see in chapter 14, Harmony and Poise, some word meanings. Begin with discretion to avoid confusion by good choices. Strife, bitter disagreements. Indignation, unfair treatment. A composite, I think we've done this before, but still, many things which come together is composite.
Yeah.
A cadence means rhythm. Ampler is larger or plenty. Heaving, when you lift or pull something with great effort. And poise is grace, composure, and dignity.
So it is, why are we telling the meaning of these words? Anybody can go on internet and find out the meaning.
Sure.
The point is not the word meaning, but the indicative meaning. which is in the context of Kindle life relevant. Therefore, these word meanings have been told to you or discussed.
In this chapter, I think to know are all of the highlighted sentences. So please take time to go through the highlighted sentences once again. When poise is maintained within us, problems and challenges vanish. This is an extremely important sentence to remember all that. That when our mind and intellect, along with our body, are in complete control of ourselves, we are ready to face any challenge that comes without losing our poise. Deep within ourselves also, we have become helpless slaves to our own uncontrollable desires and undisciplined thoughts.
Wonderful.
This is something to ponder upon. He views his problems from a purely egocentric and individual angle, without the vision of totality. Hence, the problems appear exaggerated and enormous and crushing. I'm sure we can relate to some of the happenings in our own life. With God's grace, if that not happened to us, maybe somebody around us, and see what we can learn from that. Also, we should learn to live in harmony with the larger scheme of the cosmos, because that brings us peace and poise. The principle of living in harmony with the external world is not to be construed as a life of ideal acceptance or unintelligent surrender to the challenges confronting us. Please think about what this exactly means. And if there are any questions, remember you can always write and we can discuss this. Let us move now to chapter number 15. Chapter number 15 is now in Kindle Life taking us to a larger viewpoint, a little more towards the grander scheme of things. So the topic will be slightly different. It is taking us on the next level, let us say, of Kindle.
Sure.
Would you read, Jagdish?
Oh, why not? Science and religion. The history of evolution of human intellect passes through 4 distinct stages, culminating in perfection, which our religious masters attained. Philosophy and religion relate to the 4th and the final stage of intellectual development, which is far ahead of all scientific knowledge known to mankind. Not knowing this truth, man scoffed at and rejected religion as antiquated and behind the times. Consequently, the progress of human evolution was arrested, leading to stagnation and general decadence that the world suffers today. In the beginning of human development, man was led by instincts and impulses rather than reason and knowledge. He merely perceived the phenomenon of nature, the sun, the moon, the rain, and the thunder, birth and death, and so on. His perception was no better than that of an animal. For in both the cases, their intellect never reacted to the external world. He enjoyed himself whenever objects and environment were pleasant and agreeable, but suffered silently when they were unpleasant and disagreeable. He never questioned or tried to improve what he perceived. This was the age of perception.
In this chapter, as I said before, we are going to see things differently. We had earlier done that there are 4 stages of a human person.
Personalities.
A human personality. One is the physical, then the mental, the intellectual, and the spiritual. Now we are going to touch upon the spiritual personality, which in the first paragraph also is mentioned very clearly. That not knowing the truth, man scoffed and rejected religion as antiquated and behind the times. This religion, which brings us in touch with our spiritual nature. So this was one of the most neglected sort of fields in for humanity.
In today's time.
And as a result of this, consequently, the progress of human evolution was arrested, leading to stagnation and general decadence that the world suffers from today. It is an extremely important point that man gave so much of importance, firstly, to his bodily needs, his sensual pleasures. Secondly, his mind, which always became emotional, and we have seen that being emotional is good, but emotionalism is not good for man. To get carried away and to do whatever I feel like
or I want,
yes, is not the right way to go about things. Then we saw the intellectual personality, but the intellectual personality was sort of guided with their own agenda in mind without taking the spiritual aspect. Without the guidance of the spirituality, man can never really progress and will come into a state of despair and despondency as we are actually experiences. So, what our rishis and great masters and scriptures studied of humanity for thousands of years and then wrote so many scriptures and texts, and our gratitude to the great gurus, saints who actually passed on this knowledge to us, whereby eventually and slowly, lesser and lesser number of men wanted to know it, read it, think about it, and were completely involved only in self-gratification.
And because their minds completely turn to the world outside, from the inside to the outside.
So this is our chance to go back within
to subject. So the first age was only like animal. It was called the age of perception. Shall we continue?
Please.
From this crude and barbarous age of perception, humanity marched forward to reach the age of observation. Man was no longer content with mere perception. He began to ponder over why and the wherefores, wherefore of the phenomenon of nature around and about him. His intellect thus started the causation hunting. For example, the primitive generations living in the age of perception took to shelter when the rains poured down and emerged when the rains ceased. They merely perceived and experienced the rainfall, but were never curious to observe it and much less interested in inquiring into its cause. But as man advanced in his intellectual development, he became more observant and began to wonder at the phenomenal power of nature. His little intellect observed certain simultaneous occurrences and related them unintelligently to rainfall. Thus, when he found a mango tree shaking, whenever it rained, he attributed the cause of the rain to the shaking of the mango tree. This was the age of observation, or as we call as superstition, where effects were traced to cause, which were beyond any scientific logic, reason and logic. As humanity evolved further, man advanced to the age of scientific inquiry. When his intellect reached a higher stage of development, he sought to discover the cause of everything around and about him. He penetrated into the working of the phenomenal world, collected data and facts, experimented upon them, drew intelligent and rational conclusions, and laid down a systemized knowledge of laws. Superstitions and wild beliefs were substituted by scientific truths. No more did they believe that the shaking of the mango tree could cause rain. The scientific age continues to discover the secret powers of nature for blessing the society. The physicist and the chemist, the botanist and the mathematicians, the economist and the politicians are all exercising their effort and contributing to the endless discoveries of the laws of nature. This, in short, is the age in which we are living today. As the scientists are continuously pursuing their work in their respective fields of inquiry, a time comes when they, in their maturity, wonder at the harmony and the rhythm expressed in the various laws of nature and start contemplating as to who is the eternal lawgiver, who orders these laws to function in strict perfection, obedience, and reverence. Thus, their objective inquiry is elevated to a subjective contemplation upon the primeval cause for everything that exists in nature, and this marks the entry into the age of contemplation. All the great religious masters were men of profound contemplation, engaged in subjective research of the truth that binds all the laws of nature. The men of contemplation were not content with the mechanical discovery of the laws, but endeavor to understand and discover the lawgiver, the controller, the regulator of all laws. It should therefore be quite clear from the foregoing that philosophy and religion are far ahead of science and its proud discoveries, and those who treat them as ancient and old fashioned have failed to understand their place and significance in the history of human development. Let scientific discoveries go on and bless mankind. But those fortunate few who have evolved further to understand and appreciate the existence of a common denominator in the phenomena of the nature should progress further and discover the eternal law of all laws, the knowledge of all knowledges. Oh.
Thank you, Jagdish. It gives us a completely different set of ideas about humanity. In fact, we have just seen the history of mankind, whereby the man who sort of lived in caves just accepted whatever came to him. There was no reaction. That was the age of perception, where he just watched and acted instinctively. The age of perfection led to the age of observation.
Perception.
Yes, perception.
Is it perfection?
Led to the age of observation.
Yeah.
So in observation, he thought and connected wrongly certain phenomena which occurred simultaneously and considered them as superstitious or the cause of the effects. Further, this man grew intellectually and advanced to the age of scientific inquiry. When his intellect reached a higher stage of development, he sought to discover, to understand, and he did so and laid down certain laws, and superstitions and wild beliefs were substituted by scientific truths. This scientific age still continues. We are still discovering, finding, making our world comfortable. But finally, man, or at least some of the men, were not just content with that. They wanted to actually go further and go into the age of contemplation, where their objective was to inquire about who is controlling all of these laws. Yes, laws are being discovered, but who is the discoverer? Who is the maker, the lawgiver, the controller, and the regulator of all these laws? So his inquiry went deeper and further. We will take some more time tomorrow to discuss this very nicely. Kindly read this chapter once again, and we will see you tomorrow at the same time, going further in Kindle Life. Let us finish by a nice prayer.
Asito ma satgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityormamrutam gamaya. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shantihi Shantihi Shantihi. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari